Croeso Null, and welcome to the latest episode of the Fearless and Devotion podcast with Andy Gilpin, Tim Edwards, Liam Randall, and myself, Andrew Pollard. We've got a fun old week to look back on, plenty to preview. There is, of course, the newsletter. Go and check that out. It's fantastic. A big shout out to our sponsors, the Fat Boy Group, the Fat Boy Mold, Wrexham, the Vice Gwyn Hall, Croyce Howell, the Bucking Banger, Hill Street Social, and of course, FAs and the Corner Boar. The big one today, Wrexham nil, Harrogate 1, the FA Cup first round proper away at Harrogate. So, we're going to be professional about it. Harrogate 1, Wrexham nil. Jack Muldoon with a 24th minute header off a corner. A very basic, literally just corner, cross, header, goal. And until that point, I thought we'd been doing okay. I mean, Tim, we'll start with you because you went to the game today. The atmosphere there, first and foremost, because you talked last week about what an all-timer of an away day that yourself and Andy went to at Charlton. Not quite an all-timer today, mate, no?
No, but yeah, it's very, very different environments. Very different. I don't think it's ever been a great atmosphere at Harrogate. It's just the way it is. Maybe the first time when we won there with Geno's belting free kick. But yeah, I don't know. It was an odd one. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it, and I'm not going to get caught up as being the atmosphere police against. It's just one of those things. It was a relatively good atmosphere in parts, but let's not that get in the way of a utterly atrocious game of football, basically.
Yeah, it wasn't great. Of course, Harrogate, who were 17th in League Two, had only won one of their last 7. So we were going there again. We talked about it on the last week's pod when we were previewing it about how we were expecting. I think all of us, I speak for all of us, when we were expecting pretty wholesale changes. In the end, there was only 3 changes to the starting 11. There was Owen O'Connell came in, Seb Ravan came in, and Ollie Rathbone for Dan Scar, James McLean, and Elliot Lee. Liam, were you surprised it was just the 3 changes? Were you thinking maybe there was a bit more? And in hindsight now, obviously hindsight is always 2020 and great in hindsight, but is it one of those where you're thinking, yeah, we should have give a few more players a rest?
I don't know, to be honest. It's one of those, the FA Cup's always a tournament that I respect, and Phil Parkinson doesn't really strike me as the type of manager that's necessarily going to make wholesale changes. So I don't think I was too shocked when I saw the lineup. You talk about giving players a rest, but I think some of the players that we need to be coming into form, the likes of Paul Mullin, as much as it's frustrating when it goes week after week without him scoring, I think he just needs to continue, basically. So, resting players like that would be difficult to do. Was it the right decision? It's hard to say, really. It felt like the sort of day where we could have played literally until about midnight and not scored a goal despite Pepper in their box. It just felt like it wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, it was one of those where I texted some of my mates earlier on in the day saying, ideally, we'll be a couple of goals up by half time. Hopefully, Moles has got 1 or 2. Take him off at half time, save him for the weekend. Didn't quite go like that. We did have, though, Andy, 21 shots in total, only 5 on target. Paul Mullin had a few chances. There was no massively clear-cut chances, but Mullin had a few. Ollie Palmer had a few. James McLean had a few headers when he came on. And I thought, actually, McLean looked quite lively when he came on. But for you, is it... I don't know. You look at it and thinking, I mean, Parky, the interview he did afterwards, he talked himself about how we were decent enough. It just lacked conviction in finishing and in that final ball into the box, because some of the deliveries were a little mixed, and we did tend to overly rely on just pumping it to Wally, which worked, like I said, for the first maybe 20 minutes. Then Harrogate wised up on him. It's what are your takeaways from the attacking side of things?
Attacking side, it's a proper away performance from us, and I think there's been quite a few of those this season. We're so good at home. We're still trying to find the mix away from home. It is one of those days though, and we will get them. Look, there's no divine right to win every game. We are going to lose some. We cannot throw the toys out of the pram because we have lost one. I've seen a lot of good sides come to the race course and just not perform, and we beat them quite easily. And you just sort of think, well, how's that happened? Because they were on a good run. We're not. We've beaten them without really causing a sweat. And sometimes that happens, and it's happened today for Harrogate. It happened to be the FA Cup. It happened to be I wouldn't say a glamour tie, but one on the telly where there was a bit of interest in it. Probably more around the world than there is in Britain, because we tried to get it in the pub. And tell you what, it's quite difficult to get ITVX on a normal TV screen. We went around the houses a little bit, but I think it was broadcast quite widely across the world, and that's just the pull of Wrexham. But us fans know, and there's been a few international fans who've texted me tonight, like Marks and people like that, saying, right, okay, we know when we're not going to win every game. We've actually played all right today, but it hasn't gone for us. And would I say I'd rather have that in the cup than the league? If you'd have asked me that at the start of the season, I'd have thought we needed a good cup run because I didn't think we'd be doing as well in the league. But we are doing well in the league, and not having a cup run probably does alleviate some problems that we might have further down the season. Let's replace that with the what's it called now? The Johnstone's FA Bristol paint
The Bristol Bolloco Cup, we'll just call it. That one.
Leyland Daff Trophy.
Bring back the Anglo-Italian Cup. That's what I'll be going with down the
That's
line.
the Simod Cup. That's the one we want, really. Let's have that.
Yeah, it was very much an off day in some regards, but it was just. It felt like we bypassed the midfield a lot. I thought it was very quiet from Dobson, from Rathbone, Andy Cannon.
Andy, right, back to the old days a little bit there, isn't it?
Yeah.
That was 2 steps back,
Yeah.
where we used to play. We used to play like that away from home.
That was a National League performance pre-Robin Ryan, right?
We dragged down to their level and we let it happen.
Whilst I'm all for context, I feel like we're letting them off a little bit lightly here. It wasn't very good at all. Parky can sort of go down the Dean Saunders route and talk about 40 crosses into the box and this, that, and the other. But when there's a lack of conviction up top and a lack of composure, saw that from Paul Mullin. At one point, the Harrogate fans were taking the piss, saying you've had 4 chances and you fucked it up, because he did have a couple of very good early chances, and he's snatching at them. It was the same for Barney when he brought it down. Instead of just that little bit of composure and taking an extra touch, he just lashes it over. It was over and over. That Palmer, another example where he tried to curl it, just hit the target. We hadn't really tested the keeper much at all until John Daddy Bodvarsson comes on with that volley point blank.
Yeah.
So let's not mask over the facts of the matter here, right? We haven't won in 3. The first time that's happened since January/February. We haven't scored in 2 of those games, and we have to start being realistic. And I know we've touched on this in recent pods where we've all said, well, Parky hasn't quite got it right at the top end of the pitch. It really matters. And whilst we haven't been shy for goals for the most part this season, I'll be honest, it's starting to frustrate me a bit and worry me, because there was nobody in that game today where I thought one of these is going to grab the game by the scruff of the neck. Nobody seemed to want to drag us through. And the talismans of previous seasons, Paul Mullin, Elliot Lee, could not drag us there because they're just not on their game for whatever reason. People saying, oh, Mullin's still coming back from injury. Been coming back from injury for ages now. He's over that injury. So at what point do we say, do we need to mix it up again? I don't know. I just think
what do you mean by mix it up again, mate? I mean, well, I share your frustrations that I don't think we got it right up top, and I don't think we've had it right. We didn't get it right in the signings. I don't think so. But
yeah, I think for the first time in a long time, the general feeling that I got from today's game, having spoke to a few people and just the general rumblings of discontent at halftime, was that people are getting a little bit fed up of Mullin going to ground and whinging about it and not getting it going his way. And there's a lot of that, and that's crept in. And whilst it's part of his game, I think sometimes it's getting to the point where it's defined him a little bit too much. It's like, just get on with it. You know you're not going to get it, so don't play to it. Let's just get back to what you're good at doing best, which is putting the ball in the back of the net. And I just think it's gone a little bit away from him for a bit. And I'm not saying he's not going to score goals for us. He is going to score goals for us. I just think at the moment he's just chasing his tail and he's putting too much pressure on himself. And I think that's showing. And I think today, ultimately, we beat ourselves by just not having that final bit of clarity where we really needed it.
I mean, I don't want to take anything away from Harrogate, because they deserve to win that game. So it's like fair play for them, credit to them, on they go. Best of luck to him in that. But I think the Mullin point is an interesting one, where that's how he plays, is he tries to win those free kicks. It's a lot of leaning back into defenders. And that's one thing when that's not going for you, but you're scoring goals on the side of it. And in the moment, unfortunately, the goals aren't there to go with that style of play. I think Elliot Lee's a bit of you can't really put too much on him, because I mean he got half an hour, but you'd expect him to maybe do something that half an hour, but it wasn't. It was an off day really across the board. It was
I just think we lacked urgency. It's probably the word I was looking for before. I just think that there's certain moments of the game where we dropped off it. They got the tails up, and it's just frustrating. I mean, we had that 3-on-2 at one point. I think
3-on-1 it was at one point. Yeah, then they got men back.
And I just thought, is he in two minds about whether he's going to cut it across? But to be fair, the Harrogate defence had covered that bit, so it was just literally got to shoot, and it was a tightish angle. Maybe the ball from Mulls into him wasn't the best. Maybe I'm being uber critical, but look, at the end of the day, we're not going to win all games, are we?
No.
And in a strange way, as much as I love the FA Cup, and I really do, if we beat Mansfield on Saturday, then this will kind of like almost be forgotten about, I think.
Yeah, I think with that 3-on-1 you talk about, I thought the pass was the other way. I think it was Ravan on the left rather than Dobson, and it was what it was. But Liam, any positives to take out of this? I mean, as Tim mentioned, Jon Daddy Bodvarsson got his debut, looked lively, had a few nice touches. It was disallowed for offside, but there was nice movement from Mo Fowl for the goal. Or is it just the case of the bonus is it's one less competition to play in? Yes, it's the FA Cup and it's a big deal, and it's obviously been historically a big deal for us over the decades. But yeah, what positives do you take out of this before we move on to a few other topics?
I'm going to ride the Bodvarsson hype train for all it's worth. When he came on, I said the Iceman cometh, and I thought I had a feeling that he'd get a moment. You know, I was hoping it'd be an equaliser. Ultimately, it was hit straight at the keeper, but he actually did really well to get as much power on it like he did, and I liked what I saw from him. It's a similar sort of role from Palmer, but I just felt he had more meaningful touches after he came onto the pitch. And yeah, it's probably just the fact that I want him to be a cult hero, to be honest. But I can see that there's positive attributes, and I can see that you've got a potential alternative there in the sort of number 9 role. So having options up front for us has to be a good thing given the current injury situation. I'm not sure that we necessarily have that. Well, I know we don't have that for Mullin's role. In fact, let's be honest. What do you do if Paul Mullin doesn't play? Who do you play in that role? We've mostly got players in reserve who are suited to more of the Palmer role. But yeah, Bodvarsson for me is the positive, and long may it continue.
I get the feeling you want him to be a cult hero, so in like 20 years' time, you can be like best pals with him on WhatsApp, like you are now with Imad, the Mad Banana.
Yeah, no, any association I can get with a player in need on my way in, yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm about.
Is there a bigger question with Mullin here? Because yeah, okay, he's had the injury, he hasn't had the preseason. He didn't have that last season, but he came good, and he literally dragged us up to promotion. I think the back end of last season, more than anyone, just because he came into form. You know, Mullin, when he joined us, was about to go into League One. He was about to go into League One with a pretty decent Cambridge team. He had a good strike partner up there. He probably could have done some damage there. He came down to us. Now, if he wasn't going to stay with Cambridge, there was other League One teams who were suitors for him. I mean, Charlton were one. He was very close to signing there. He ultimately didn't go to League One when he was 27. He's now in League One when he's 30. He's coming on the back of an injury problem. Look, is there doubts in his mind that he can cut it at that level? Is there doubts in our mind that he can cut it into our level? Because I'll tell you what, I've always been a massive, huge Paul Mullin fan. I've always thought he's played below his level. I always think that the way that he really occupies a centre back has been far better than the league that he plays in. But ultimately, and I know Tim sort of touched on it, he is there to score goals, and at the moment he's snatching at chances. I mean, when he took the free kick, I just knew it wasn't going to go in.
Well, the fact it was a cross, I text one of my mates, like, why, if Moles is taking that free kick right at the death, why are we having Paul Mullin cross it? It's one thing if if he's going to hit the ball and have a strike on goal, because he is he is our best striker of football and scorer of goals. So that's one thing. But to have him take that free kick just to put it,
is there a crisis of confidence? Is what I'm trying to get at. I'm sorry, I went for a very long-winded way to say that. Is he doubting his own mind a little?
I don't think he doubts himself. He's a very confident fella, and I don't doubt him. And I think a lot of Wrexham fans don't doubt him. But clearly, as you touched on in, Andy, he has snatched at chances. There is maybe a lack of composure at times because he's just so desperate to start scoring goals. and he's had to sit on the sidelines for so long with Jack Marriott doing it. And let's face it, if Jack Marriott didn't get that injury, Paul Mullin isn't getting game time at the moment. He's going to be getting still 10 minutes, 15 minutes at the end of games. He probably would have started today because it was a cup game. But so he's found himself back in the team on the back of not being able to make the most of the chances he's been getting off the bench. And it's not quite clicking there. It will get there. It will get there. He will score plenty of goals this season. But just right now, yeah, I don't think it's a confidence issue with him. I think it's just I think it's just the frustration gets a bit too much for him at times, and he is just so desperate to score that he's snatching at everything.
Yeah. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I think he'll come good, and I know you can get accused of overplaying the injury, but your back is, it's where everything is connected to essentially. So if he's having back surgery, you can say he might be over it or whatever, but he's not
going surgery, mate. It was spinal. It was
exactly,
spinal surgery.
I've said it repeatedly. I've said it repeatedly, but there is no such thing. And Mullin has had periods before where he's had a difficult, I don't know if you'd say first half to the season, but the early months of the season have perhaps been his more frustrating periods. And we've always got to, we've had these debates in the same sort of time frame in previous seasons, and ultimately he's come good. So, it might be blind hope, it might be anything, but I'm confident that he will come good. Whether that's January or whenever it is, I just don't doubt the man's abilities, because I've seen him tear apart championship defenses in, a couple of games in the FA Cup. So I believe in him, basically.
Tell you what, like December, if you kind of take out the games we've got left this month, Mansfield, Stockport, tough games, Exeter, Lincoln, not unsure there, but like December, the 6 games in December, and some of those teams that we got are languishing in the sort of lower ends of the table. So you got the likes of Burton, Cambridge, Bristol Rovers to a certain extent. That is a good opportunity for Mullin to really kind of hit the ground running. And I'm not being disparaging towards those teams, and just thinking, that is a good time. That the games come thick and fast at that particular time of year. It'll hopefully give him some momentum. And I think he needs a big month, because if we're still in and around it, even if we're just nicking games 1-0, 2-1 or whatever, and we're still in that mix, you can almost guarantee that the owners will go out and get who you need. And Parky will be finally looking to kind of address that little bugbear up top, which is we need a proven striker with pace that can really unsettle defenders like Mullin has done in the past and isn't quite doing it at the moment. And that, again, is not remotely saying that he can't do it or won't come good. I just think he just needs to start playing his natural game again and forget about the hullabaloo around everything else, and not worry about whether he can cut it at this level. He's a proven goal scorer. We all know that. So I just think he just needs to kind of relax a bit more and stop having conversations with the referee every 5 minutes.
I mean, sorry, there was one moment. Look, I don't want to labour the Mullin point, because I think we're all on the right playbook here. We all think that guy is too good not to be a major asset for us this season. It's just not happening at the moment. But there was one bit that really summed it up to me, was when he was at the left-hand side of the Harrogate box, and he went down and he didn't get a free kick. Instead, he got a corner. But he was remonstrating so much with the referee. He got a needless yellow card. Look, that to me just sums up the good and the bad bits of Mullin, because he's always been that narky sort of player, and that's why we love him. But sometimes, if he's not scoring goals, that part of his game gets magnified, and that's the bit me and other fans take away from it, rather than the sort of the great bits that makes Paul Mullin such a threat for us. Look, I think he will come good. He's too good not to really have an influence this season. I just think, like Tim says, I think he needs to pressure take him off him a little bit, and I also think he needs to relax. And I think it's just indicative of the fact that Parky wasn't able to nail that centre forward position during the summer, and it's all come from this, really. And that's why, you get Bodvarsson in, you play Palmer more than he probably wanted to. Foul, he thinks is one for the future. Otherwise, he would be playing him a lot more. He would have played him today. from the start. So I think that's the major sort of bugbear. But I can't really fault the rest of the recruitment. I think he's done really, really well. And we've actually missed Dan Scar today because that was a proper
Massive.
Dan Scar game
Yeah.
where he would have headed everything away. Can I just have a word about Ravan, because there was a lot of calls for him to start. I didn't think he was brilliant today. I'm gonna be honest. I thought maybe he lost his man for the goal.
Yeah, he did.
Do we think that the left-hand side is his natural side, or is he more of a right-sided player?
I mean, seemingly by trade, he is left-sided, and he is left-footed. But then, obviously, there's a lot of inversion in football these days, and we've seen him play on the right, cutting in, and being lively and the threat. Because there's been games where he's played against better opposition than Harrogate, and he's been a really, really strong asset on the pitch. It's just, again, today he got a chance. It was a rare time where we actually put James McLean on the bench, gave him a bit of a rest, albeit he did come on towards in the second half. But yeah, with Ravan, it was. I think he is left-sided, but I think he's that versatile player where he can do both sides. A little bit like we've done with Jacob Mendy, but I'd say he's more accomplished on his right foot than Mendy is. And that's not meant as a dig towards Jacob Mendy. Just some players are more one-footed than the other. He's not really done himself in glory today. There were a few slap passes he's done. The goal, like you said, Andy, it was I've watched it back several times trying to pinpoint whose man it was, and it looks like it was Ravan's man, and he's lost him, and then he's kind of gone on to Ollie Palmer, but Ollie's already got another man, and the fella and Muldoon's got a header, good ball in. So it's. I mean, Ravan will be out the team again at the weekend. We know that because it's James McLean will be back in, but yeah, he's not the best of games today, but it's a rare chance for a start.
Is McLean suspended for that game?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you guys, and I was hoping Liam Randall might be able to
suspended for that.
You were relying on me.
Yeah, well, you're now in the trade, aren't you? This is.
Well, of course.
Put it this way, Liam. Mark Curry would know.
Yeah.
Well, he would. Mark Curry knew everything. He was the font. But you've chucked me under the bus here, Andrew Gilpin.
Hello.
So the answer is no. I don't know.
Well, that's it. 'Cause it's 5 bookings across all competitions, but one of them was in the League Cup. So you got the 5 bookings. You'd have thought if he was going to be suspended for the weekend, he would have started today, regardless. So I don't know on that one. We have got a roundup to come shortly, but I think before we get into that, there was another game today, a lot more positive game today, which was Wrexham women winning 3-1 at home against Britain Ferry. Abingdon scoring, and Lily Jones scored an absolute screamer. Take a bow, Lil. Hell of a hit. If you go on social media, find that, track it down. Great hit from distance. Liv Fuller getting the 3rd goal in the second half. Big result because Britain Ferry were probably quite fancying it today. Last weekend they were top of the league for a cup of coffee before Cardiff played and went top. And it's obviously Wrexham women they did have a very so-so start, but now there's 3 wins on the spin. There's 17 goals in those 3 games, 3 clean sheets as well. I mean, granted, one of those was an 11-0 win in the cup, but 2 back-to-back 3-0 wins in the league over Cardiff Met, Britain Ferry, 6 in an 8-team league, but only 4 points off 3rd place Swansea. So things are starting to turn around a little bit for Steve Dale's girls. Adrian Trophy next, Cumberland Celtic next Sunday away, they're in the Adrian South, but they are second and having a good season. It's another good win on the board, chaps.
Momentum is what we need at the moment. So they've definitely turned the corner by the looks of it, So long may it continue, really. I mean, they found the shooting boots again, and Steve Dale tweaked the form. Well, not the formation, but the starting lineup on a couple of occasions, and just seems to have found a bit of a winning formula, I guess. So maybe that's what's needed. Maybe it just needed freshening up, and just kind of stumbled across it, and happy days. Good win. I think Britain very undefeated before today.
Very. I thought you said we were very undefeated. Like that's a term.
No.
I'm not sure Britain Ferry totally this season. I know that, like I said, they were top last weekend for a few hours in the afternoon until Cardiff played. And it's like you said there, Tim. That's what I was going to go on to next. It feels like this season in particular has been the one where they've really needed to change a few things about, and it took a little bit of tinkering. There's not so much of a reliance on Rosie Hughes, obviously, who was in all the headlines the last couple of seasons. And I mean, Rosie's played a part this season, has done great at times, but it's more of it seems like more of a team ethic, a team game these days, where in terms of the headlines again, and it's been kind of stalwarts of the last few years and maybe have been dropped out. Like, for instance, Del Morgan has been on the bench for, I think she started one game this season. Lizzie Craven's got the nodding goal. And you can see Steve Dale's tinker with things, and it seems like it's starting to pay off a little bit anyway.
Yeah, no. But yeah, just delighted for him, really, because we know there's a lot of hard-working people behind the scenes there, and they would have shared the same frustrations as anybody else. So, very, very kind of not an expected start, but a very chastening experience, with the sort of defeats that were coming their way. So it's just nice to see him turn that corner, and long may it continue. I think it probably will. Now that they've got things in motion, and we all see it. We see it with the men's team as well. That it just breeds confidence and that bit of momentum going into that cup game as well, which you'd expect them to see through. So yeah, let's see if this is the mountain now. Start climbing up it and see. It'd be a very, very interesting rest of the seasons, that's for sure.
Yeah, it was a really tough start of the season. Go on, Andy. Sorry.
So it was Britain Ferry's first defeat this season. I've just checked.
Brilliant. And again, yeah, go and check out that Lily Jones goal in particular. Just an absolute screamer from Lil again. The top stuff. Right. Liam Randall taking centre stage. The roundup, I believe, will become a weekly fixture of this podcast, because obviously you have your new role at Reach, where you're covering Wrexham exclusively, getting the inside scoop on a few things. There were a couple of big stories in the week that we discussed on an emergency pod, Claxon there, which was obviously the minority stake sold to the Allen family, and Rob and Ryan becoming co-owners of Wrexham Lager. So Liam, what other juicy tidbits have you got for us? I say tidbits, not titbits, from the week. Don't really see no tidbits on a Sunday night, mate.
I'll keep them watching. I'll keep them in. So actually, I wanted to start on those 2 points, the Wrexham Lager and the investors, because there's a couple of little updates I've sort of gathered here and there. One is we sort of skirted around the location for, I think Wrexham Lager have actually now confirmed that they are looking to get a new brewery built. I've heard it from that many people now that I'm just going to say the location that I've heard is Jewson's. So that's the old traders yard at the back of Wrexham General. Quite a lot of people are saying that that's where it's being looked at when you think of the Gateway development, the new COP and everything. It all ties in together pretty nicely. Also heard off several people that it is that the sort of thing they're looking at is, tours, a bar, that type of thing, make it a destination and tie it all in as part. So that would be absolutely ideal, wouldn't it? You hop to the Maesgwyn, you hop there as well, choices basically, but never forget the Maesgwyn, actually, for the sake of our sponsors.
Exactly. I believe they do decent pre-match things on a match day. I'm just saying. And just what you said there, it gave me a chuckle just then when you said it, and it gave me a chuckle when we talked about it in the week on the emergency pod about literally the idea of a Wrexham Lager brewery becoming like a destination, like a Guinness brewery, like your whiskey distilleries, where it's like people are going to go and do it. So which and I'm sure they will, and it's great, it's brilliant. But just to think of this now, I don't know. I don't know, when you've over the years drinking Wrexham or buying bottles of Wrexham or the old cans or whatever, and to think like, yeah, in 20 years' time, they're going to be doing tours of the brewery. They're going to build a specific new brewery where people are going to come over, tourists, to do tours, and like, oh yeah, it tastes proper Wrexham lager. You have to go to Wrexham to drink that, like you do with a Guinness. It's nuts, man. It's absolutely nuts.
Yeah, it has to come from the Gwenvro, really, doesn't it? Otherwise, it's not proper.
Someone was speculating on Red Passion. They were like, "Where do they get it from nowadays? The water? Do they get it from the Gwenvro, or have they got a secret spring?" I was like, "Have you been watching Only Fools and Horses?"
Peckham Springs.
To be fair, the Gwenny is literally 20 yards away from me right now. I can go and start brewing my own rogue batch this evening.
It's like, I hate to take the magic away from it, but I'm pretty sure most breweries just use like main supply and then obviously treat it, filter it or whatever. So we could create that mystique because people still think there's actually tunnels underneath Wrexham. So if maybe we could tell them that's where the water's sourced from.
I remember seeing like a thing on YouTube, totally unrelated to Wrexham Lager or to football, of like some young explorers. It sounds like, I don't know, it sounds like some dodgy fancy stuff. Maybe. I want to say fancy, I mean like Indiana Jones, not like adult fancy, Liam. But yeah, and it was just this like these young adult explorers who were in a little like boat going under the tunnels to try and see what was under there. And then they got spooked the hell out and just like, nah. And they'd gone in, I think they'd gone down a tunnel underneath, I think it was
Brook
the
Street,
Golden
wasn't it?
Lion. Yeah, I think it was underneath the Golden Lion. They'd gone, like they kind of managed to get down somewhere through there.
I've seen it, and I'm pretty sure it was just like a culvert that goes under Brook Street. So rather than being like, like these are meant to be all these interconnected hidden tunnels underneath pubs that have been rumored, but no one ever provides any evidence. So I think that was more just a culvert.
Is that how the cockle man just sort of appeared from each pub? Was he using this?
I mean, to be fair, that's how I get to Mice Gwyn so quick from Fat Boar. It's yeah.
I always wondered how you did that.
Yeah, I got a little scooter under there. Watkin provided. Anyway, what are the new scoops have you got for us then, Liam, this week?
So also it went relatively unnoticed at first, but I picked up on some comments on a local news website, Syracuse.com, which is basically
Wrexham.com, but in Syracuse.
Yeah, I don't know if they have a Rob Taylor there. Hopefully
Rob
not.
Taylor the third.
Yeah. But so that's basically the community where the Allen family do a lot of their work. And there's only a couple of lines in there, but it just sort of shone a bit more of a light on how it came about. So they're basically saying that Rob and Ryan were actively looking for investments. And they spoke to an advisor at JP Morgan who was then in touch with them. And they basically liked the idea of, trying to do things for the wider community of Wrexham. There's some talk as well, they like the fact, basically, Wrexham post-industrial town where, how things did sort of go downhill a bit in maybe the 80s, but, it's on its way back up and they want to help that journey, basically. And the only other real line was just they're saying that they're still obviously going to keep on with their investments in their home areas, but they're really enthusiastic about the Wrexham project, quote unquote, because I'm not sure how people feel about that word. Couple of other bits and bobs. Paul Mullin shared a really nice update on his son Albie's progress. Obviously, we know he's had a diagnosis with autism, and at one stage he was non-verbal, which Paul Mullin has talked a lot about. Sort of the struggles, but also the joy is that involved in parenthood. And he's revealed that his son's been coming on leaps and bounds, talking a lot more, and he was able to say trick or treat on Halloween. So that one just made me smile. In amongst a few other things. Also had friend of the podcast, Andy Morell, chatted to him a bit about Ryan Barnett and why he thinks Parkinson needs to tie him down to a new deal. Basically said that he wouldn't be surprised if they're already doing it, but just thinks it's
a new deal. I thought he'd already been extended in the summer.
Well, it was that they triggered an extension, wasn't it? I think we had the ability to trigger a 1 year deal, but that's still 2026, and I'm sure he'll be wanting a more reflective salary if teams, in the championship, for example, are sniffing around.
Yeah. I mean, he's had a real purple patch, and I know people might be saying it's a bit too soon, but when you've got valuable assets like that with big potential, Mozza was basically saying that he thinks he can come on, and play into the championship, and then if he continues developing potentially further. So I think it's just something to reward, something that's more commensurate with how he's been playing since the season started, because he has been our star talent, really. So yeah, that was most of them. A couple of a little bits. I spoke to Kieran Maguire, again, someone we've had on this podcast quite regularly, football finance expert, about the MetaQuest sponsorship deal. I didn't actually realize he was basically saying, there's a good reason for this, and it's that people in these businesses, the tech giants, are basically saying it's not going to be a million years before there will be these experiences on offer where you're going to be able to say I'm in, New Broughton or whatever, but I could watch the game with my mate in Harden. You're watching it on virtual reality, and it's essentially like you're sitting next to each other type of thing. And there's other options as well. So people globally, it could be a lot more of an immersive experience when you're watching a Wrexham game. And he was saying that, they've obviously done their research. They know that Wrexham has got this captive audience. It's seen as accessible to quite a young market, and a US market as well, which has got quite a bit of money. So rather than it just be a name on a shirt, there might be, things to come down the line. I think Man City have already done quite a lot with that type of the AI elements in terms of like stadium tours or something like that. I don't know how it works because I'm a Luddite, but it's got lots of potential basically, and it's another big sponsor for us. So it'd be interesting to see how that one goes.
designed specifically for those people in Harden, because my memories of Harden is just everybody has loads of money. As a poor Buckley boy, it's like you'd have your mates you play football with from Harden on a Saturday morning, and then when you got to that age of like drinking and you go to their house for parties, it's like there's a moat. We've got a moat and an outside bathroom and acres. What is this about? Me and my mates just normally sit on a brick wall somewhere drinking cans of Orangy Boom or whatever. But right, one last topic to get into, which is this coming Saturday, Mansfield at home, 12:30 kickoff, of course. Mansfield, who are fourth in the league, one place below us, they had a far more successful weekend this past weekend where they beat Curzon Ashton 4-0 away. Curzon Ashton, of course, Paul Mullin's first ever goal at the racecourse came against those in a 3-1 win, the pre-season friendly. Mansfield promoted with us last season in third place. Ollie Palmer had a couple of seasons there in terms of recent players. What are we expected from this? Because obviously you'd imagine Dan Scarr comes back, James McLean will come back, Elliot Lee will probably come back in. But then is it a case of you maybe give Mullin a day off? Because he's had to come in for so many games in short shrift, but then he has got 3 goals in his 3 games against Mansfield for Wrexham. Andy, you're nodding and shaking, and that's just the caffeine.
Mullin plays. He won't play on Tuesday, but he'll play on Saturday. I think that's the way. That's how Parky looked at it today, that he played more or less a first team because he knew that he was going to go really weak on Tuesday because we're already qualified. And that's going to be a very experimental team. But because there's only, there's a game every 7 days for the first team, as it were, that you could afford to play Mullin and Palmer and try and strike up a relationship and try and get them into form this season. So I'm absolutely sure that Mullin will play against Mansfield, and I think Palmer will as well, because I think they're a different proposition at home than they are away.
Yeah, and that Tuesday as well, to clarify, is the following Tuesday, Port Vale away in the Bollico Trophy, the Bristol Bollico Trophy, as it's now been.
Is it not this Tuesday? Is it Tuesday after? Is it?
It's a Tuesday after, but the point still kind of stands, as in that game, nobody with any sort of major first team credentials are going to be starting in that. Anybody who's on the fringe will get a go in that one. But in terms of Mansfield, this coming Saturday, it's I mean, there is the option there to bring in John Daddy up top. I don't know on that one, but like I said, Paul Mullin, 3 games for Wrexham against Mansfield. He's got 3 goals, so he's in there, and they're on the back of a decent run. Their past 2 league games, they drew 1 over Birmingham. They won 2-1 away at Wigan. But they did lose to Stevenage before that, because Stevenage just have that habit of beating all the top teams seemingly. But any other Tim? Let's go to you. While you're waiting for your pizza to be cooked, what?
The bell's just gone on my cooker.
Oh, was it
ready? Yeah.
Don't worry, we're nearly done. Also, what pizza is it, Tim?
It's a chicken and pesto pizza.
Ooh! Is this one of the Morrison's ones?
Basil and pesto.
Okay.
I think it was might be a Sainsbury's job. I can't remember.
I think it could be Sainsbury's.
Before I give my thoughts on this, just a quick point of order, because I just got visions of many confused American going, "Why is Andrew saying hard on when he's actually talking about a place in Flintshire called Harden, which is spelled Hawarden, so it's not hard."
Nah, I wasn't, Tim.
Yeah, I'm just no. You are. You often talk about Ollie's Bellend. We're not going to venture into hard-ons as well. That's a very different kind of advert. Mansfield, I think it is going to be tough. I think they've obviously had a very, very good start. I think they're very well managed, they're very well coached, and they're very well drilled. So yeah, I agree with Andy. I think.
Sorry, the child in me got a chuckle. Then you followed a sentence about Harden.
Very well
drilled. Sorry, yeah,
I just realised.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll mute myself, Tim.
Dear me, it's like a carry-on movie all gone wrong. I just think that how do you make a more frustrated striker frustrated by dropping him? You just don't do it. You don't do it. It would just be a nightmare. You cut your nose off to spite your face if you do it. So I think we are a different proposition, and we all know that. And I just think we just got to stick with him. We've got to keep the faith in him. We know, you're more likely to get a goal from nothing out of Mullin than probably any other player in that squad, just because of what he can magic up. And whilst we've not seen a lot of that yet, I'm sure when it does come, it'll come by the bucket load. So that's the hope. But yeah, I'm a bit worried about that game, because they've got some decent strikers. Obviously, Will Evans is there. He came from Newport. Very, very good signing. Obviously from up this neck of the woods, North Wales. And I think Lee Gregory, I think he's got 7 or 8. He's like 36 years old, but he's already got 7 or 8 goals already. So I don't think it's going to be a bore draw, but we'll come to predictions in a minute. But I think it is going to be a proper, another tough game, but they're all going to be tough at this level.
Yeah. Andy, are you predicting any particularly, not necessarily left field selection choices from Barkey, but is there anybody that maybe drops out that you wouldn't normally expect? Andy Cannon keeps his place. Elliot Lee back in for Rathbone. George Dobson, obviously.
Rathbone huffed and puffed today, but didn't really lay down a marker for a starting berth. So I think you more or less go back to your Charlton starting 11. I'd say, and I think Lee will come in. I think Cannon will start this time as well, as regards to he didn't at Charlton. So I think it would be probably Scar, Clearworth, O'Connor. I think it will be Barnett, McLean, Lee, Dobson, and Cannon, and Mullin and Palmer. Obviously, Arthur in goal. Lee Gregory, don't trust him.
What about Kurt Russell? Kurt Russell.
Yeah, okay, that was sort of that was pointed out, and I'll have to give you Kurt Russell.
He is looking at me from down there. Again, a picture. It's the Escape from New York print, a poster framed. So Kurt Russell's, he's watching me. Weirdly, he's watching me from
Kurt Russell. I don't trust him, but he'll rip my throat out. So
yeah.
Did we adjudicate on Eric Allen as well? Because you seem to like him.
Who? Sorry.
Eric Allen. Did we adjudicate on whether
the spelling?
The spelling. It's the spelling of Allen. If it was just ALAN, then I'm in trouble. But I'm not.
Don't slag the man off. He listens to the pod.
We love the guy, but we're gonna have to have a dubious goals panel for people. Andy saying he doesn't like people with two.
Yeah, Dennis Lawrence. There we go, Andy. Dennis Lawrence.
Yes.
What do you think of Dennis Lawrence, Andy?
Yeah, Craig Morgan.
No, I'm not having Morgan as a first name.
Why can't you?
Get
Morgan
out.
Schneider.
Isn't there's
Morgan Freeman?
If we're having that proper rules in this, it's proper first names like Gary, Tony, Phil, Dave. that they're proper first names.
What decade you just reel off the cast of EastEnders?
If it was Phil Dave, he is not going anywhere near me. Right? I'm not letting that guy anywhere near me. All right, Craig Morgan. Morgan's not a first name. It's
Morgan
got to
Freeman.
be a proper
Morgan Freeman.
First name.
You're going to tell Morgan Freeman he hasn't got a bona fide first
name as a first name. So if he wants to take it up with me, he can.
I'm not going to do an impression.
No, you started there.
Morgan Freeman impression.
You started to your finish, Liam. You can't just.
I'm not cancelling myself 1 week into a job by doing a terrible Morgan Freeman impression.
Fair.
Racist Randall's roundup. That's what we're going to do.
Right.
He's got a pizza.
Let's do predictions. Andy, let's go with you.
It's tight. It's tough. I think we'll eke it, but it will be really, it will be tighter than last season. I think 2-1.
Okay, Liam.
He always does this to me where he steals my prediction.
Steals your sunshine. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna go 3-1.
Oh, you prick! Oh, you've stolen my sunshine. Okay. Anyway, Tim, crack on.
2-2. I think there's smoke coming out of the kitchen, so I better get going. 2 each, yeah, 2 each.
Right. You know what? I'm going to go 3-0 in that case. Balls to you. I know it's predictable. I was going 3-1 till Liam ruined all of that. Thanks for that. And he didn't even do the Morgan Freeman voice for it. Cheers, mate.
Yeah.
Right.
If your prediction comes true, Liam, you've got to do the next prediction in the Morgan Freeman voice.
That's give it some gravitas.
What was that? What?
That's not Morgan Freeman.
Whose ass are you grabbing? What was this? Gravitas?
That's just my gravitas voice.
I know.
You sounded like Lurch from the Munter gravitas.
The Munters. Lurch from the Munters. What is this, Tim? What have you been watching this parody online? Holy moly. I dare to imagine what Han's getting up to in that film.
Yeah. Right, okay, time to go.
What is Han getting up to in that film? The Munters. Anyway, right, and that is the Addams Family, actually. So, right, this has been the latest episode, probably the last episode ever of the Fillers and Devotion podcast. Of course, go and check out the newsletter. Thank you, as always, to our sponsors, the Fat Boy Group, Fat Boy Mold, Wrexham, the Mice Gwyn Hall, Chris Howell, the Bucket Banger, Hill Street Social, and of course, FAs and the Carnivore. Andy, Liam, Tim, it's been emotional as always. Say your goodbyes, and we'll be back next week.
Always.
guys.
Who needs
Not
the FA
start.
Cup? See you later, FA Cup.